name's Kaye and I've lived in the Wangaratta area for the past 12 years. I previously had a sister living in Wangaratta and have had family friends up this way, so I knew the region quite well, and when the opportunity came to gain employment up this way, I left Melbourne. I'm fortunate enough to work on rivers with an environmental consultancy based here in Wangaratta, and my main role is in river condition assessments, where I've seen rivers right across the state of Victoria and in other states, and the Murray, and I've grown to appreciate how special our Ovens and King Valley and their rivers are, particularly the Lower Ovens River where I'm standing at the moment. We're standing on a flood runner or an anabranch of the Ovens River. This one's called Boundary Creek. As you can see, it's still relatively natural. There's a lot of in-stream, large woody habitat within it. And if you look just up on the higher floodplain, you can see that the higher areas have been cleared. Just above us here is a patch of red gums that have been recruited in a flood event, possibly the '93 event, where there's a large stand of single-age trees which were allowed to flourish after the flood. They haven't been grazed, and that's a real indicator of a flood event in a particular period. Yeah, these lowland rivers in this sort of condition are really rare across the whole country. The reason this river has survived and is in such good condition is for two main reasons. The river's effectively unregulated. There's no really large storages upstream. So whenever we get a decent rain event, the water actually reaches here. It's not all captured, and the river has the opportunity to rise and fall and flood out, which is crucially important for the health of the river and its anabranches and the floodplain. Behind me you'll notice a bright green tree, which is in fact one of the willow species. Willows were used for bank stabilisation up until about 15-20 years ago. Really, we've discouraged the use of willows for bank stabilisation. Without question, they do a pretty good job initially at holding a bank. They're very tenacious species, easy to propagate, and with a massive root mass that binds banks. However, the benefits are very short-lived, and within time those trees encroach on the stream, deflect flows, and don't allow the river to move as it wants to. Here we're standing on a slight outside bend on the Ovens River, where you can see a mass of exposed roots as this outside bend is trying to migrate in this direction. This is a natural natural appearance of this river down in this section, and should not be seen as a problem or an issue. That's how the river should look. If you look to the other side of the river, you can see that bank is in fact totally stable and actually aggrading, filling in as this whole bend moves in this direction. Fortunately, down here on the Lower Ovens, being all Crown land, we can allow that to happen. If we had a freehold boundary 2 metres from the top of this bank, then the adjacent landholder would be feeling pretty concerned about it. Here we can just let things happen as they always have. Another great feature of the Lower Ovens River, or the Ovens in general, is the amount of large woody habitat that is still in the stream and on the banks. And why is that important? Well, it offers a whole range of habitat opportunities for fish and other aquatic life within the stream. if we had no snags, we'd effectively have a featureless sandy bed throughout without any pools. And what large woody habitat provides is variation in flow velocities around it, which create, as we can see here in this dryish flood runner, the water's plunging off the back of this log, creating this pool here, which is a bit of a drought relief refuge. Flows around the end of this log, maybe quicker than what's in other areas. That whole log provides different flow velocities that suit different aquatic life and fish. We still have some standing large dead trees, which in a more agricultural landscape would have been pushed over and cut up for firewood. A very large red gum right here, which should be at least 200 years old. And you'll notice across the floodplain here, there's a whole mixed age of overstory. There's quite young red gums, which would be 5 to 10 years old, and a mix all the way through to this 200-year-old gum in front of us. 3 large species of large shrub that we still find on the lower Ovens is this melaleuca here. There's a bottlebrush and the silver wattle, which are pretty common on most waterways in this region. And the ground layer does have some native species. It's a little bit weedy in this area, but we still have sedges and tufted grasses, poas in here. And there's some areas across this floodplain where they dominate. They're really extensive. To have an intact ground layer, or relatively intact as we have here, is very rare. Most areas have either been cleared or cultivated or grazed heavily over large periods, and that ground layer is lost. And that's what's particularly special here, that ground layer remains. Trees can always regrow, but once you lose the ground layer species, the grasses, the herbs, and the smaller shrubs, they're very difficult to return to any real density or in any natural state. I do feel very privileged to live in this area so close to this magnificent river. I often come out, particularly after work on a Friday, with colleagues and friends and go fishing. Love my fishing, whether that's trout in the upper reaches or cod and yellow belly and other large-bodied natives down here. Be happy to spend a whole lot more time on the river despite working on them during the week. My vision is that these areas will remain at least as in good condition as they are now, and hopefully we can continue to make improvements in the river condition and protect this lower Ovens reach. Okay, we're in Apex Park, about 100 metres from the main channel of the Ovens River, and I'm standing next to Yogi, who's a bit of a flood icon around here. He's been our rough measure of flood height for many years, where even under minor flood conditions, the park behind me here is inundated, and we would have colleagues come into work and say, yep, minor flood, we're up to Yogi's tummy. So we're coming up to this sort of area. Moderate, might be up to Yogi's chin, and a major flood up here somewhere. I can't remember where 93 got to on Yogi. But the park was redeveloped recently, and there was a bit of a fuss about ensuring that Yogi, because he was moved, was put back at the same height so that we can still relate our flood heights to Yogi.